also doesn't translate so easily into other languages. It's kind of a difficult term, right? And as with any term that has different meanings in different contexts, it's even harder to understand. It also has a lot of different interpretations. People understand different things. And it does mean different things depending on where you're using it and how you're using it. But when it is used in humanitarian work, we usually kind of understand it in the sense of entering into contact or communication or relationship with a specific purpose. So let's stick to that understanding throughout this course, because that's essentially what this course is about anyway. Engagement has many parts, or think of them as kind of methods or techniques or even strategies or tactics, yeah? So there's like outreach, which is a part of networking, there's negotiation, there's communication, there's relationship building, and all of that are kind of parts of engagement, right? They're how engagement is articulated in a way, yeah? Engagement can even be a meeting, but then what you do in that meeting should be kind of linked to some sort of goal, right? And the same with negotiations. But it's all part of a broader umbrella of engagement. And we engage with different individuals, different levels of authority or status, with populations, with leaders, with so many different people. So when we put engagement before it, like, or after it, community engagement or engagement with armed actors, we're still talking about the same thing. We're just specifying who our efforts or our strategies are directed at. Or engagement with authorities, for example, what we're talking about is how we're approaching them, how we're entering into contact, how we're building relationships with them. That's what we mean. It could be with donors, whatever. That's what we mean when we talk about engagement. No? In a military sense, engagement is used, engaging with the enemy, for example, is when you come into contact with the enemy in a military style. But as a lot of our vocabulary seems to come from military, here it's this coming into contact with, right? So each technique, method, or strategy is used in different situations to achieve different goals. That's how it should work. Sometimes with a person, you will move through different stages of engagement. Okay, so I mean, it's not the same thing that you do all the time. You know, when you're with a new person, you're reaching out, getting into contact, you set up a meeting maybe, you're getting to know them, then you're building the relationship, and then perhaps at some point you will need to ask for something or buy something for them or from them or enter into negotiation about something. But all the time you are communicating in some way and for some reason, and all of the time you should be building bridges, building the relationship, either with the individuals that you're targeting or focusing on, or the groups. And each moment in time, at each point of the relationship, you should be adapting your team's specific style, approach, strategy, and tactics. The problem comes when this is kind of random. So effective engagement strategies or tactics, right? Understand that there are different stages that can't be like simply skipped over because we're in a rush. Yeah, it's like when you meet somebody for the first time, you're not going to ask them for something big in normal life, right? Because there has to be trust, there has to be a relationship that has to be established. So oftentimes we rush into we skip over important parts of engagement and rush to the end. Linking with that, effective engagement strategies start with the end goal when you're building the strategy. They don't start at the end. And then you work backwards through the stages to create your strategy. So you know what your goal is, and then you work the steps backwards to see, okay, which type of engagement strategy now for this phase, for this stage, and you prepare them properly. Yeah, that's how it should be done. And I will explain how to do that. So if the end goal is to gain access to a zone where nobody wants you to go, for example, no one wants to give access, there's no point in just going to the person, military or civil or whatever, and just like demanding access on humanitarian grounds. That's starting at the end rather than starting at the beginning with a progressive, staged engagement strategy. perhaps to build relationships first, to generate influence, to generate your reputation, your credibility before asking the big ask. Because if you're just going to get all angry because people say no, work it back the steps, and don't start at the end. Start at the beginning, but know clearly what your end goal is. That's how you should build an engagement strategy. All the different parts or techniques or tactics that, let's say, of engagement need to work together. It's like any strategy. There's the strategic goal or the tactical goal, and then there's the steps and stages that are built to achieve different mini goals, let's say, before the bigger goal. They shouldn't be random, as I said before. They shouldn't be spontaneous. Like, it's not like, oh, look at my list of important people and I think, oh, oops, I haven't met the mayor in 3 months. I better go. That's not it, right? When you meet people and when you're interacting with people, there has to be a bigger strategy at play. All the people you engage with have one thing in common, right? They're all human beings, and they all involve person to person or person to people interactions. So it's relationships. Again, it's interpersonal relationships that are so important in all types of work, and particularly in humanitarian work. So all of the types of engagement that you build strategies for must be part of a larger goal or strategy that is clearly defined and linked to humanitarian programmatic action and goals, your operations or your programs. Each requires different skills, different mindsets, different attitudes, and different styles. There's no such thing as one style fits all in engagement, right? And I can give you the example. For example, I was once in a country, and our organization wasn't very culturally informed on how to interact with the Ministry of Health. So we interacted with them as our organization's culture dictates, rather than adapting to theirs. And of course, it didn't work. And we were rejected, and it severely damaged the relationship. So you have to understand the cultural context, the style, how meetings and how engagement is carried on. You can't go with your organizational kind of mantra and hope that works. And you have to adapt it to the different styles, different people, not just the different cultures. It's not the same to engage with a group of elders as a group of ministers. It's not the same to engage with state armed actors as non-state armed actors. It's not the same to speak to a group of ministers in X country and speak to a group of ministers in Y country. So adapting and building a strategy. It's not about reading who's next on your list and calling up to go meet them and introducing yourself and your mandate. We'll talk about that next.